I want you to imagine your life is just completely falling apart. You know, you're a successful, educated professional, but suddenly the bottom just completely drops out.
Yeah, the kind of absolute rock bottom where you go totally bankrupt. You lose your home.
Exactly. You hit a point where you are um, literally contemplating ending it all.
What?
But then right in the middle of that sheer darkness, you discover this unseen energy.
Right. And it's a profound shift. It doesn't just help you rebuild your own life from the ashes, but it goes way beyond that.
Way beyond. Fast forward a bit, and your father is in the hospital with necrotizing fasciitis. That's a deadly flesh-eating infection.
Whoa, it's brutal.
Right. And the doctors give him almost zero chance of survival. But using this newly discovered energy from a distance, mind you, he makes this miraculous recovery.
A recovery so dramatic that literally 5 medical doctors are left standing around his hospital bed in complete awe.
It sounds like, I don't know, magical realism or like a script for a movie. But that is the actual documented experience of Torsten A. Lange, who wrote the source material we are looking at today.
Yeah, the invisible energy he credits with pulling him back from the brink and subsequently saving his father's life is Reiki.
So welcome to this deep dive. Today, our mission is to completely demystify Reiki. We are going to strip away the vague New Age buzzwords,
Totally,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of them.
There really are. So we're going to unpack exactly what this quote-unquote universal energy actually is. We'll look at its dramatic origins, the philosophy of holistic healing, and most importantly, figure out how you, literally anyone listening right now, can physically tap into it.
And look, whether you are a total skeptic who instinctively rolls your eyes at the phrase energy healing, which is fair, or you're actively looking for a tangible way to find health and balance, the goal today is to give you the practical mechanics.
Exactly. How this stuff is said to actually function in the real world. Okay, so let's unpack this. When someone tells you an invisible energy-cured flesh-eating bacteria, your first instinct is probably to picture, like some ancient monk guarding a mythical scroll in a hidden temple.
Right, the classic mystic trope.
I know, mine was. But before we can understand how to use this energy today, we have to look at the guy who discovered it. And Mikao Usui was definitely not an ancient mystic.
Far from it. Usui was born in 1865, right during the Meiji Restoration in Japan. And for context, this was a period of explosive, rapid modernization.
Like transforming overnight, right?
Exactly. Japan was industrializing fast. Usui came from a samurai family, but the Meiji era actually stripped away samurai privileges, so he was forced to adapt to this rapidly changing modern economy.
Which is wild to think about. He was highly educated, right? Traveled to the U.S. and Europe.
Yeah, he even worked as the personal assistant to Shinpei Goto, who was this incredibly influential politician who helped modernize Japan's public health system.
So he was a modern guy. He was a businessman, an entrepreneur. But he was an entrepreneur who failed spectacularly. Like he went completely bankrupt.
Yeah, he lost everything. He had a family to feed, tried everything to get his business back on its feet, and just nothing worked.
So, desperate for answers, he goes to a Zen monastery. But even sitting there in meditation, he's just frustrated. He can't find that inner peace. Finally, his abbot essentially tells him, well, the only way left is to accept death.
Which is pretty extreme advice.
Right. So Usui goes up Mount Kurama to fast and meditate for 21 days, basically expecting to either find enlightenment or literally starve to death trying.
And then on the final day, he experiences Satori, which is a moment of sudden enlightenment. The text actually describes it as feeling like he was struck by lightning.
Wow. But the profound part isn't just the spiritual awakening, right? It's what happens right after. He's walking down the mountain, dazed, and he stubs his toe. It's bleeding. He's in intense pain. He instinctively grabs it, and the pain completely vanishes.
Healed almost instantly.
Right. Later that day, he sees an innkeeper's daughter with a terrible toothache, places his hands on her jaw, and the swelling goes down. He realizes this spiritual enlightenment came packaged with a physical healing power.
It's an incredible origin.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate for a second. We hear about energy healing. We picture ancient secrets. Usui was a modern guy whose business tanked. Why did a business failure lead to a healing revolution?
Well, his modern practical background is the exact reason Reiki is accessible to you today. In traditional Japanese culture, sacred methods were strictly guarded family secrets. You just didn't share them.
Right, kept in the family.
Exactly. But Usui defied that tradition. He explicitly wrote that keeping these methods secret was a bad custom of the past. He actively chose to democratize healing.
Which was put to the ultimate test pretty soon after, wasn't it?
Yeah, violently tested during the 1923 Great Kanto earthquake. It was a catastrophic disaster, killed over 100,000 people. Usui and his students spent months in the rubble treating the injured masses.
Wow.
And it was in that crucible that he refined a system so that normal, everyday people could learn to heal without needing to starve themselves on a mountain for 3 weeks.
Okay, so he democratized it. But what exactly is the it here? To grasp what Usui was teaching, we kind of have to completely shift how we view reality. Let's look at the word itself, Reiki. It's made of 2 Japanese kanji characters, rei and ki.
And the visual representation of these ancient characters is fascinating. It's deeply instructive.
Tell me about ki first.
So ki translates to life energy. It is the unseen force that animates the living world. In the ancient kanji drawings, it's depicted as a grain of rice, but with these distinct lines radiating outward from it.
Oh, like an aura.
Exactly. It visually represents the aura, the energy field surrounding the literal sustenance of life.
Okay, and then there's rei, which translates to universal or spiritual, right?
Yeah.
The kanji drawing for rei looks like rain falling from heaven down onto a shaman or a healer who is standing there ready to catch it.
Yeah, so putting them together, Reiki literally means heaven and earth coming together. It is spiritually guided life energy. The healer is simply catching the rain of the universe and combining it with the life force of the earth.
I mean, I love the poetry of that. But if I'm being honest, it can still sound a bit abstract for someone, sitting in traffic listening to this. So let's bring it back to physics.
Okay, physics.
Albert Einstein referred to matter as curdled energy. Here's where it gets really interesting. You look at the steering wheel in your car or the chair you're sitting on, and you think it's a solid, permanent object. But science tells us it's just slowly vibrating energy.
It's exactly like Wi-Fi. Just because you can't see the signal floating through your living room doesn't mean you can't stream a movie to your TV.
Yes, the energy is there. You just need the right receiver to decode it. And the author actually gives this very practical exercise for you to see this energy field, your aura, with your own eyes.
Yeah, it's an exercise you can try the next time you're with a friend. Have them stand about a foot or two away from a plain white wall in a fairly well-lit room.
Okay, white wall, well-lit room.
Right. And you stand back a few feet. The trick is to not look directly at them. Instead, you soften your gaze, maybe narrow your eyes slightly and focus your attention on the blank wall just around the outline of their head and shoulders.
And what happens?
Within a few moments, most people will begin to see a faint, bright, almost translucent strip tracing the perimeter of the person's body. It's usually about ½ an inch wide. That is the innermost layer of the aura, the densest part of the human energy field.
That is so cool. But wait, if everything is just energy, and we have this visible aura around us, how do we catch that falling rain? Why do we need these specific points in the body, like the tendon or chakras, to access it?
Well, we need them because the overarching philosophy here is that the human body is perfectly designed as a microcosm of the entire universe.
Okay, a microcosm.
Yeah. To interact with universal energy, we need specific, localized containers to catch and process that ray. You have the lower tendon, located just below the navel, known in some traditions as the hara. This is your earth energy, your physical grounding, your vitality, your gut instinct. Then you have the upper tendon, located at the third eye between your eyebrows. This manages your heaven energy, your intuition, insight, and spiritual connection.
Earth at the bottom, heaven at the top.
Exactly. And right in the middle is the middle tendon, the heart center. This is the energy of oneness, empathy, and pure connection. The mechanism of Reiki occurs when you draw heaven energy down, pull earth energy up, and mix them together in the crucible of the heart.
Wow. Okay, so since we are these complex energetic mirrors of the universe, catching and mixing energy, it logically follows that when we get sick, the sickness isn't purely physical.
Right. The container is leaking somewhere.
Exactly. The text outlines 5 distinct levels of healing: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and life circumstances. It argues that a physical symptom is almost never the actual starting point of an illness.
The author details a cascading effect. So, a spiritual crisis, say, a profound lack of purpose in your life creates a mental loop of negative thoughts. You constantly think, I'm trapped.
And then what?
That mental loop generates an emotional weight, like deep sadness or anxiety. Eventually, if left unaddressed, that emotional weight physically alters your body and manifests as disease.
Which brings us to that incredible story about the practitioner named Dee and her client. It perfectly illustrates the life circumstances level.
Hmm.
Dee is treating this woman with a severely frozen shoulder.
Right?
Dee applies Reiki, expecting the physical muscles to loosen. Nothing happens to the shoulder. However, during the section, the client's mind is just flooded with obsessive thoughts about her finances. She is self-employed and completely terrified about money.
Yeah, she feels nothing physically, but she's mentally spiraling about her bank account.
Right. But then a few weeks later, a massive surge of new work comes in for the client. Her financial panic completely vanishes, and then her frozen shoulder magically heals.
It's amazing.
The physical pain was a literal manifestation of her, quote-unquote, shouldering a heavy financial burden.
The physical body was simply sounding an emergency alarm about a life circumstance.
I mean, I love the shoulder story because stress clearly causes muscle tension. But let me push back from a purely biological standpoint.
Sure.
If I am crammed onto a subway car,
Right.
right, and someone coughs in my face and I inhale a virus, I get a chest cold. A germ is just a germ. Can a physical problem just be a physical problem?
It's a totally valid question, and it brings us to the difference between just curing and actual holistic healing. A germ is indeed a germ. Traditional medicine is highly effective at curing an upright. Take an antibiotic, it kills the germ, symptom stops.
All right, problem solved.
But holistic healing looks at the psychoneuroimmunology of the situation. It asks, why was your body susceptible to that specific germ on that exact subway ride?
Ah, okay. Looking for the underlying vulnerability.
Exactly. The germ is the what, the vulnerability is the why. Are you flooded with cortisol because you're suppressing emotional trauma? Is your nervous system stuck in fight or flight mode because of a toxic boss, which has just tanked your immune system?
That makes a lot of sense.
Illness is often life's aggressive way of forcing us to pause. Reiki doesn't just attack the germ. It works to regulate the nervous system and guide you to the root cause of why your energetic immune system dropped in the first place.
Right, getting to the actual root.
Consider that the word healing shares an etymological root with the word holing, making someone whole. Sometimes true healing isn't just a cleared sinus cavity, it's a profound spiritual awakening, or, finally setting a boundary you've been afraid to set.
Okay, so knowing that suppressed emotion makes us sick is one thing. But how do you actually fix it? How does a normal person, sitting at home listening to this, plug into this universal energy to start that holding process?
This is where we get into the attunement.
Yeah, and this completely defied my expectations. Because there are zero prerequisites to learn Reiki. You don't have to study ancient texts, you don't meditate for a decade, and surprisingly, you don't even have to believe that Reiki is real.
No belief required at all. The author shares a story of a student who enrolled in a training weekend for the sole purpose of proving to her friend that it was absolute rubbish.
It's going to debunk it.
Totally. She was deeply skeptical. Yet, during the process, she physically felt the energy, experienced a massive life shift, and ultimately became a highly successful Reiki master.
Oh.
In this system, belief is irrelevant. Just as you don't need to believe in gravity for an apple to fall, you don't need to believe in Reiki for the energy to flow.
The mechanism that starts this flow is called the attunement, or reiju in Japanese.
Yeah.
It's a short ritual performed by a Reiki master that essentially replicates Mikao Usui's moment of enlightenment on that mountain. But what is actually happening to the person sitting in the chair?
It is fundamentally an energetic transfer. And this is key. The master is not giving you their personal energy. They are acting as a catalyst to clear your energetic channels, opening you up so you can access the universal ray energy yourself.
And the experiences people have during this vary wildly, right?
Yeah. Oh, incredibly wildly. The author notes that during his very first attunement, he felt absolutely nothing, just boredom. But 30 minutes later, his hands began intensely tingling. Other people report seeing vibrant flashes of color, typically purple or green. Some experience profound spiritual visions, or just this sudden, overwhelming sense of emotional peace.
And then there are the synchronicities, like the story of the student who received an attunement, felt completely overwhelmed by intense heat in her body, and left to ride the subway home.
Oh, the subway story is wild.
She puts on her headphones, randomly shuffles her music, and the song that plays is Love Thy Will Be Done, a track written by Prince and sung by Delta Goodrum.
Which is so specific.
Right, and as she sits there, listening to lyrics about yielding to a guiding light and finding inner peace, the intense heat in her face instantly rushes down her arms into her palms, and her body physically cools down. The universe was literally DJing her integration process.
It illustrates how deeply personal the integration is, and that moment kicks off a mandatory 21-day clearing process.
A detox.
Yeah, exactly. When your channels are suddenly blown wide open, your body and mind undergo a massive energetic detox. It's like turning on the water in an old house where the pipes haven't been used in years. All the rust and debris gets flushed out.
Makes sense.
For 21 days, practitioners often experience vivid dreams, sudden mood swings, or the spontaneous release of old, buried emotions. It can be a turbulent few weeks.
But the opening is permanent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it inducts you into a lineage. Every single Reiki practitioner in the world can trace their family tree directly back from their teacher to their teacher's teacher, all the way to Miyako Usui.
So, trying to wrap my head around this, the best analogy I can come up with is like an old school radio. The hardware is already inside you, the speakers, the dials, the internal wiring. You were born with it.
Right.
But right now, your dial is stuck between stations, and you're just picking up the static of daily life. The Reiki master comes in, acts as the antenna, and simply turns your dial to the exact right frequency. Suddenly, the static clears, you catch the universal signal, and the music plays.
That radio analogy holds up perfectly, especially when you consider the speed of the transformation. In many contemplative Eastern traditions, achieving that kind of energetic resonance requires decades of rigorous discipline to slowly bypass the stubborn human ego.
Yeah, it's a lifelong pursuit usually.
But the attunement process is a shortcut. It bypasses the intellectual struggle of the ego completely and immediately flips the light switch on.
Okay, so the detox is done, the radio is tuned, the switch is flipped. Once that channel is open, where does the energy go? It flows directly to the most practical tools on the human body, your hands.
Yes, your hands.
But before we talk about using them, there is a massive distinction the text makes. When you place your hands on someone, you are not using your own personal energy.
No, definitely not. If you were using your own life force to heal a friend or a family member, you would be rapidly depleted. You would basically absorb their sickness and drain your own battery.
Which sounds exhausting.
Exactly. The genius of the Reiki system is that you are merely the channel, like a hollow bamboo tube. The universal ray energy flows through you, out of your hands, and into the recipient.
So you don't run out.
Right, because the energy is flowing through you first. Giving a treatment often leaves the practitioner feeling just as energized and balanced as the person receiving it.
So your hands become these tools to connect, to sense, and to share. But the absolute foundation of the practice isn't actually healing others, it's healing yourself.
Self-treatment is everything.
And the author has this brilliant practical tip for it. If you are someone who, hits the snooze button 3 times every morning, try this instead. Set your alarm 30 minutes early. When it goes off, just lie there in bed and perform a self-treatment. Even if you drift halfway back to sleep, the energy flows, regulating your nervous system for the day.
And the system provides a very clear map for this. There is a sequence of traditional hand positions, generally held for 3 to 5 minutes each.
Where do you start?
You begin by placing your hands gently on top of your head, then move down to cup your eyes, your ears, your throat, down to the middle tendon at your heart, then the solar plexus, the lower tendon at your navel, and finally the root chakra at the hips.
So you're literally covering every major energy center.
Exactly, methodically covering all the organ systems.
Yeah.
However, the text heavily emphasizes that your intuition must always override the rules. If your hands feel like magnetized or intensely warm over your throat, you just abandon the sequence and stay there.
I love that. And once you've practiced on yourself, you can start treating the world around you. And that applies to literally anything. You can use it to help a restless kid fall asleep. You can use it on animals.
The bumblebee story.
Yes. There's this charming story of a student who found a dying bumblebee on the pavement, gently cupped her hands over it for a few minutes, and the bee suddenly flipped over and flew away.
It's amazing.
You can even practice distance healing. But, okay, let me push back again. If you hand me a powerful tool, my immediate skeptical thought is, how can I accidentally mess this up? I mean, I've been conditioned to think that if a medicine doesn't taste bad or have side effects, it's not working. What if I'm trying to help a friend who has liver trouble, and I confidently place my hands on the completely wrong spot? Could I do harm?
The text claims there are absolutely 0 contraindications. It is entirely risk-free.
Wait, 0 risk? How's that possible?
It's possible because of the inherent intelligence of the universal energy itself. You, the practitioner, are not forcing the healing. You are not diagnosing. You are just the delivery driver dropping off the energy.
So the energy decides where to go.
Exactly. The energy knows exactly where the vulnerability is. A perfect example from the source material is a student who is practicing a classmate's head, but the classmate started feeling this intense throbbing heat down in her left knee.
Her knee, but the hands were on her head.
Right. It turned out the classmate had recently undergone a botched surgery on that exact knee. The practitioner's hands were on the head, but the energy instantly routed itself down the body to the area that required the most urgent repair. It is foolproof.
It just reroutes itself to the priority.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Well, we've covered a massive amount of ground today.
We really have.
We traced the birth of Reiki from a bankrupt Japanese entrepreneur's sudden enlightenment on a mountain. We explored the physics of curdled energy and how your body acts as a container with its tendon points.
Yeah.
We unpacked the profound differences between temporarily curing a symptom and holistically healing a root cause. And we learned how the attunement process permanently flips a switch, turning your own hands into risk-free healing antennas.
It requires a profound paradigm shift, really. It challenges us to stop viewing ourselves as isolated, vulnerable physical objects and to recognize that we are interconnected nodes within a vast field of energy.
Which leaves us with a final, provocative thought to chew on. We've spent a lot of time today talking about the microcosm, how your individual body mirrors the mechanics of the universe, and how you have the innate power to channel energy to heal your own wounds. But if our bodies are truly just a microcosm of the entire universe, and everything is connected, what happens to the macro universe when millions of us start fixing our own small energetic corners of it? By simply placing your hands on your own chest, taking responsibility for your own trauma, could you actually be healing the world?
It certainly dramatically elevates the importance of your own personal healing.
It really does. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. I hope that today, whether you're sitting at your desk or driving home, you take a moment to look down at your own two hands a little differently. You might just be holding the universe.